Planning Commission meeting to order for February 26, 2025, and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Harold Bain.
Here.
Whitey Simon.
Here.
Mark Bouchard.
Here.
Chris Altunen.
Here.
Christine Holcomb.
Absent excused.
Robert Muesling here. Wayne Torno.
Here.
Margie Ferris. And Kathy Schweikart.
Here. Item number 4 is approval/amendments to agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second. So we have a motion and support. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Whitey Simon.
Yes.
Harold Bain.
Yes.
Mark Bouchard.
Yes.
Chris Altunen.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Yes.
Margie Ferris.
Yes.
Kathy Schweikart.
Yes, thank you. Item number 5 is approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes that need to be approved. 5A is the draft minutes from December 4th, 2024.
Okay, I motion to approve.
Got a motion, support?
Support.
Got a support by Skip. So we have a motion and support. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Whitey Simon.
Abstain.
Harold Bain.
Abstain.
Mark Bouchard.
Abstain.
Chris Altunen.
I'll abstain, I was absent that meeting.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Yes.
Margie Ferris.
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart.
Yes.
That's, we need what, 5?
Mark was here.
Mark, were you here?
For one of them, I wasn't.
This would be
This would be the first one for December 4th of 2024. You were here for that one,
Oh, okay.
right?
I changed to,
Thank you. That helps. Thank you. So
I was
that would,
thinking
we
it was
got
going down.
And
No.
that was December 24th
that was December 4th.
or 4th.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so then we're going to move on to item 5B, which is the draft minutes of January 22nd, 2025.
I'd like to make a couple corrections on those minutes. Under roll call, absent, Deborah Addy and Tom Kozel had already stepped down, so they weren't expected to be there.
Correct.
And also, Kathy, you were not present, so I chaired that meeting, so we just need to make that adjustment as well.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Nope.
Okay, roll call, please.
Whitey Simon.
Abstain.
Harold Bain.
Abstain.
Mark Bouchard.
abstain.
Chris Altunen.
Yes.
Christine Holcomb. Absent. Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno.
Abstain.
Margie Ferris.
Yes.
You weren't
You're
present.
Abstain. No, you weren't.
No, you were
Not
not.
for the January meeting.
Oh, that meeting.
That January
That
meeting. we're not-
meeting.
yeah,
Oh,
so-
I was not there. Abstain.
That's okay.
And Kathy Schweikart.
I abstain also.
That's as approved as it's going to be.
You're correct.
So,
Unusual. All right, what I was going to do next is the rules for public comment and public hearing comments. I want to ask Skip to read those for us, so everybody will know what we need to follow as far as the rules for the public hearings that are coming up tonight, okay?
Okay, all comments must be read through the chairman. Comments directed to the applicant from the audience are prohibited. Individuals wishing to speak have time limits, 3 minutes for each member of the general public and 6 minutes for a spokesman for a larger group. Example, a subdivision association, condo association, business group, and similar groups. Anyone wishing to speak is asked to sign the sign-in sheet provided. However, anyone wishing to speak will be given the opportunity. Each individual will be allowed to speak once. It will be the chairman's decision as to whether rebuttal comments will be allowed. Citizens may appoint a spokesperson to represent those who agree on a point of view. Public comments on a specific public hearing request should be made during the public hearing for that item.
Thank you, Skip. Our timekeeper tonight is going to be Margie, and it's 3 minutes as it's explained for individuals and 6 for somebody representing the group. With that, I will open the public hearing in regards to parcel, we're going to go with, located at 5660 Point Trumbull Road, and it's proposed rezoning from R1, one-family residential district, to C2, small business district, RS1, rural suburban residential. And we're going to open the public hearing at 7:06. So, I would ask,
Chairman Shortart, I request to be removed from this agenda.
Sure.
For, what is it? What's the number of the agenda?
it is the first public hearing, which will
Okay,
be in
public
regards
hearing,
to 5660 Point Trumbull
Okay,
Road.
due to conflict of interest.
All right, thank you, Mark. We'll wait for Mark to exit the building, not building, the room. How's that? Yes, yes, Selena.
I'll be in the teacher's lounge if you need.
Thank you.
Make the coffee.
Just a moment, sir. Sir, just a moment. No, just, we are going to start with the planner first in regards to this public hearing. And that would be Karen.
So tonight, we have a rezoning request. This is for a property located at 5660 Point Trumbull Road. It is a 43.66 acre parcel, and its current zoning is R1 Single Family Residential. The applicant is seeking rezoning it's essentially requesting two zonings for the portion, the 3.28 acres located in the front. They're requesting C2 Small Business District, and they're requesting the rear of the property, the remaining 40.38 acres, to be rezoned RS1. Whenever we do a rezoning review, we basically look at two items. How does this request, how is it compatible with the surrounding properties, as well as how does this request relate to the vision of this area according to the future, or to the master plan and the future land use map that Clay Township has. Properties surrounding this parcel to the north, it's zoned R1 Single Family Residential. To the east, it is zoned C2 Small Business. To the south, the parcels there are R1 One Family Residential and C3 General Business. And the property to the west is zoned R1 One Family Residential. But, yeah. And this, as I said, the site is currently zoned R1 Family Residential, and basically what is currently allowed in that district is single-family homes, essential services, family daycare homes, clubs with 30 or fewer people, private energy solar systems, state lights and residential facilities, accessory structures to these above-listed uses, and any other use determined by the Planning Commission to be compatible with these. It also allows for the following special land uses, which includes agribusiness, bed and breakfasts, churches and synagogues, farms, farm stands, group daycare homes, home occupations, private landing fields, private schools, public facilities, recreation facilities, vehicle storage, two-family residential dwellings, and fairylands and accessory parking and storage. And that was what is currently allowed, the way the parcel is currently zoned. With the applicant's request for C2 zoning, what would be allowed there as a permitted use? Well, all the principal permitted uses in the C1 district, which is basically the least intense commercial district that Clay Township has. It also would allow convenience retail uses, laundromats, dry cleaning, restaurants, excluding drive-throughs, accessory buildings and structures to these uses, and any other use determined by the Planning Commission to be compatible with those uses. And as a special land use in the C2 district, what would be allowed would be all the special land uses that are allowed in the C1 district, outdoor patios and entertainment, institutionally or organizationally owned recreation, instructional, and meeting facilities, mortuary establishments, and business district accessory dwelling units. With the requested RS1 district, this was your rural suburban district, and essentially it is, what's permitted there is what's allowed in other residential uses. The RS1 suburban residential district does call for less dense development than the current residential zone of the parcel. And like I said earlier, when we look at a rezoning, we also look at how's this request, how is it compared to what's called out in the township's master plan. And in your township, your master plan, you have a future land use map, and it shows this area of Point Trumbull. This particular property, it looks like it's still zoned, or the vision of it was residential. However, it is flanked on both sides with commercial property, and it does show growth of commercial uses along Point Trumbull Road. So taking these into consideration in my review, I believe that this request is compatible to the surrounding properties, as well as what is outlined in your master plan. Again, your master plan is a guide of what it sees the vision of this area to be, and I see this request as still being compatible with that vision. I know, in the applicant's application, it mentions that they're seeking this request because it sounds like they're anticipating that they could have a commercial development. They would like to have a commercial development up on Point Trumbull Road. And we do not have a site plan tonight for that because that is a separate process. Right now, this is just the rezoning review that we're doing. And the purpose of the rezoning review is to decide if this zoning request is, whatever zoning change happens, that's a permanent change. So whether this project falls through or not, if the planning commission were to change the zoning, that's a permanent change to this piece of property. So whether the applicant is able to move forward with this project or not, this is why we look at what all uses are allowed in the requested zoning districts. And again, like I said in my review, I do believe what they're requesting is compatible with the current surrounding properties, as well as what the vision of was laid out for in this area for the master plan.
May I ask you one question?
Sure.
This board, meaning the planning commission, whatever we decide tonight is a recommendation to the board of trustees?
Right, it would be a recommendation to the board of trustees that would make the,
Final.
yes,
So ours is a recommendation from this body to our board of trustees, and theirs would be the final recommendation,
correct.
whether it gets rezoned or doesn't, whichever way we go.
Right,
Thank you.
Karen, can I ask you a question?
sure.
I think when the applicant was in previously, if memory serves me right, they wanted to rezone to a C1, or was it C3?
I believe it was C3.
3. What is, can you explain to us what the difference is between C2 and C3?
Sure. So I'll go through C1, C2, and C3. So for C1, if you look at your zoning ordinance, it basically says the intent of this district is to basically have offices and very low-traffic commercial businesses. So I'm imagining offices, maybe personal services, a barber salon, stuff like that. C2, it's a bit more intense, but it's still neighborhood retail, neighborhood services. C3 is more of regional retail or regional services. So I'd say for C3 zoning, you would anticipate maybe something larger scale, a larger scale retail, possibly a big box retail. With the C2 district, let me find it. Again, so in the C1 district, it's mostly offices and I think personal services. And again, in the C2 district, convenience retail uses, laundromats, dry cleaning, restaurants excluding drive-through, and then accessory buildings and structures to that. And for special land use, again, it says the special land uses in the C1 district, outdoor patios and entertainment, institutionally or organizationally owned recreation, instructional, and meeting facilities, mortuary establishments, and business district accessory dwelling units.
If the applicant or their representative is here and would like to come forward and speak at the podium. Okay. Only because we have to be able to hear you, I'm sorry.
All right.
Take your time.
Takes me a little time.
It's okay.
My age is catching up. Faster than one.
That's all right. Take your time.
Made a presentation about a year ago.
You have to go to the
Oh, I'm
podium,
sorry.
please.
You're right.
That's okay, and would you please state your name also?
I will do that. My name is Mario Palazzola. I'm the owner of Lucas Homes. I'm the managing member of the LLC. I've owned that property for about 20 years. We develop property in the area. Nook Road, those duplexes that are on Nook Road are my units that we built. They're still there. And according to the previous planner and previous supervisor, they said that was one of the nicest subdivisions they've seen in the area. We don't have any plans on this property to build any houses. There's a lot of difficulty with building on this property because of the wetlands issues. You could build a few homes in there, but the problem is when you build houses and have to build roads for those houses, if you don't use both sides of the road, it's economically not feasible. We've had it engineered twice. We had it engineered before the upland, before the St. Clair River was overflowing, and we had a lot less wetlands at that time. And what happened after the wetlands, after the, I know what you call it, when the St. Clair River decided to overflow, there was a couple of things that happened in the area. One is that it looks like Clay Township may have drained a lot of water onto those two pieces of property in that area. We got pictures, we have people that had actually seen it. There was like 11-inch pipe going across, I think the street's called Faust? No. The street behind is called, I can't remember now.
Phelps.
Was it?
Phelps.
Phelps. It becomes Phelps. Before it becomes Phelps, it's another,
Taft.
yeah, that's it. And apparently they were trying to help or save the firehouse, the fire building that Clay Township has because it was flooding pretty bad. In the water department building you had. Also properties on the high school. Is it a high school? I believe it's a high school, where the football field is, and a few houses that are right behind my property. As a result of that, it created an additional wetlands, probably about 60% more, which made the property useless for us. Other than my grandkids could play on it. So that's basically it. I'm open to any kind of questions. I'm not sure if they have any. My attorney was supposed to do this today, but he had to go to Florida. He had a family emergency there. I think he's going to be okay. You know, it's warm in Florida.
You said 60% more wetlands. How much for that property would you consider as wetlands now, based on your last survey?
There is about 45 acres there, and, am I reading this wrong? 43.727 acres is now wetlands, excuse me. Therefore, there's wetlands that covers 36.43 acres, 83%.
So 83% of your property is considered wetlands and will not be able to be built upon.
I don't want that second part on.
Well, as of
We got
today.
Donald Trump in the office.
Yeah, but based on
plan
your
on calling
study, based on your study, they're not gonna
Yeah,
let you build on
it's
those wetlands.
impossible to build. There's the uplands, but they're long and narrow.
Sure.
So you can't put a subdivision with, backyard, a house, and you can't build on the other side of it. So the cost of putting a street in can only be paid for by one side. The houses in that area were not going to be million-dollar homes. We were planning on putting, when we first talked about it, about 18 duplex houses. I built a lot of duplexes in the area.
Okay.
And, ranch duplexes and
So your request coming here today is basically to get some redeeming value out of your property by making the front,
if I can get the
C2.
front C2, I can maybe take that piece of property and make it a retail. We have a retail group that wanted to buy it. They made the presentation. They came out of Cleveland. I don't know what happened to that presentation. I wasn't invited,
okay.
But apparently, before that presentation, I met with the supervisor and the planner, and they were tickled to death what I was doing. We were going to have a small retail section, and then a road would go back a little bit where the uplands were available, and we were going to build some duplex units, ranch duplex units, which right now is a favorable thing as we all get older. Any other questions?
What's your intent on that 43 acres then now? What would you do with it?
Nothing. When we were going to build the houses, we were going to call it the preserves and leave it for walkways. It'd take a heck of a builder to build on 43 acres like that. You could build probably 100 units if it wasn't more than 100 units on there. And there's other issues, you gotta get to the drain. To get there to the drain, you have to go through wetlands. Every time you touch a wetland, the price tag goes up tremendously.
Okay, I was just curious if you had
Yeah.
something in mind.
We don't need to build on it all. We've owned that property for a long time. Our intent was when we built the Nook Road project, we were going to continue into that project. We bought that from a local fireman here. And then what happened, I ended up in Washington Township, where I ended up getting old in Washington Township, and we were building ranch houses at $500,000 each. A lot easier to build an expensive house than to try to build a smaller house and still make it economical. But there's a need for this type of housing. So to answer your question, we have no plans.
Okay, thank you.
My son does hunt on it. That's probably the only plan we got.
You have a question? Go ahead.
I'm just curious then, why are you changing the zoning if you're not going to be making,
My attorney, that zoning is less than the zoning that you had on originally. Good question.
yeah. But does the
I
taxes
might,
change?
one of the ideas, I'm an old Italian guy, and I learned how to farm. I'm thinking about putting a vegetable garden in some of those locations and give the vegetables away. People think I'm crazy when I say that, but maybe I am. Cauliflower,
I was
kabootza.
just wondering what the tax implication would be after changing it from residential to
I don't know.
commercial, or RS1.
I got a reduction in the taxes last year. But I didn't, you can't deal with the wetlands people. I had them come over and say, okay, can we move the uplands in one section and move the wetlands in another section, not losing any wetlands at all? And they said there's no way they could ever do that based on their bureaucracy. And I was going to have more uplands towards the front of the property, because the back is all wetlands. It's pretty, and then you got the drain there, and that's all wetlands in that area. But there's parcels, there's a couple of acres you could squeeze uplands in the area.
So there's a possibility in the future to not be wetlands, it could dry up.
I'm 75 years old. My future's not very long.
We have to deal with the present.
Don't usually go the other way.
No, I know.
Right.
But I mean, that could be a possibility.
I'm glad you're an optimist.
Not with Eagle.
Anyone else? Well, thank you very much.
I thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for showing up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any member of the audience, public, that would like to come forward, opportunity now. Just state your name, please.
Peter Tambo, 9195 Maynard.
Can I interrupt you for just one moment? You also submitted?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
just want to make sure I got the same person.
Yep.
Thank you.
I was going to mention, I gave that to you.
Yes, we are in receipt of it, but you are here. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. Let me touch on that a little bit first, then I'll jump in.
Thank you.
That would, like, my opinion, I said in there that I didn't believe your process was correct because you don't ask for any kind of a plan or what's going to go onto the property when you go to rezone. I visited all the surrounding townships, and every one of them requests a site plan and what's going into the property before they even attempt to change the zoning. And they do this to save time and money, okay? I mean, you're all sitting here tonight, getting paid, and if you'd have done this ahead of time, and I've got a copy here, I'll give it to you guys if you want for later, just one of what they request, and everybody pretty much had the same form. As far as that, would you like, Scott? You can have it. Whatever, but they're
Thank you.
all the townships said the same thing. They don't want to waste everybody, the applicant's time and their time reviewing something if they don't know what's going in there. So that's where I stated that. Okay, on to what's tonight now. This is basically the third time go around, and this the gentleman mentioned years ago with the subdivision, and that was shot down. Roughly same time last year we were here. Okay, went through the same procedure. They're going to put a dollar store in. You guys voted it, I don't know if it was all of you, but passed it to the board. The board turned it down. The county turned it down. And the main reasons were, it goes against the master plan. The master plan for that area is zone R1. Okay? You can't spot zone it, that's illegal. So, I mean, to me, it's, what are we doing here tonight? Look back at last year's meeting for the same time, and you're going to see all the comments, and then follow it through and see how many people turned it down. And the main reason was because of, against the master plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the audience like to come forward and speak?
Joe Portis, 5619 Point Trumbull. I can understand the owner's frustration that he has a 40-acre parcel and he's down to, he can use 4 acres. And I believe it's 4 acres that he wants to rezone as C2. 3.28. Okay. So he's trying to maximize his losses with the 3.28. But when we go to that C2, is he going to be back in front of this board in 6 months and ask to put a marijuana dispensary there? Because that's allowable in a C2? And we have no ruling for that at this point, as far as I know. And the back then is going to be basically ruled, he's already talked with Eagle, apparently, and knows that he's got the wetlands issue, so that's never going to be developed back there. So we're just turning this into another commercial parcel. But it's commercial going to the east where the Hamburger Ackett's is. To the west, it's residential. We have a family there with small kids. If he turns that into C2, we're going to have a traffic issue. We have a sidewalk that runs through there, and we're going to create a whole mess. And this is what we went through at the same time when we were looking at the Dollar General. And when this went to the Board of Trustees, they were sympathetic enough, I should say, that they said we don't need a another commercial parcel there. They would rather see it further up to the east as opposed to the west. So I ask that you know, take this into consideration. Going C2, we have, it could turn into a busier district than what we need there right now. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, hold on. Anyone else in the audience who'd like to come forward on this public hearing? All right, Karen, after hearing any of the comments, do you have any additional information to impart?
Well, I'd say that it's not a spot zone. If it was something like industrial, or, yeah, if it was something like industrial, I would say that would be considered a spot zone. But because you have C2 right next to it, I would say that this request isn't, it's not a spot zone request. It's not spot zone. That was a concern of the planning commission. And again, if you look on the master plan for this area, yes, it's true, this particular parcel, we don't have parcel outlines, unfortunately, on the master plan, so it's hard to tell. But it does look like this parcel is residential, but it does show growth, commercial growth to the west. And commercial still east of this parcel as well. And again, the future land use map is a guide, but it is showing commercial in that area. So that's all I have to say.
Have you seen the Ira Township, the gentleman handed this to me, the application for rezoning approval? Because rightly or wrongly, I was always trained that we weren't allowed to ask necessarily what they were going to put once we do it, because anything can go there. Even
Yeah, I'd say, you know, again, with the zoning change, it's a permanent change. So planning commission, you know, you might like, you know, if you look at all the permitted or special land uses in a district, you have, you know, just because you like one idea, maybe that's the idea presented to you that night, that shouldn't be the basis of the permanent decision of the zoning request change, because that idea might not come to fruition. And then you have to realize, oh, the impact of what else could be allowed in this district. That is typically, I mean, I currently work for 5 communities within, or 1 in Macomb and 4 in St. Clair County. And a sketch or a plan is not required. Again, because thinking of what are the long-term consequences of this rezoning. An applicant can provide it. They might say, hey, I want to do it because this is my idea. But that single idea should not be the basis of the decision. So that is why most communities don't require that. If Ira wants to require that, that's fine. If that's something Clay Township wants to consider, they can. But that's not what our current application requires right now. And so we can't make a decision, or we can't require that of the applicant because it's not part of our application process.
Thank you for that explanation. Sir, you said you wanted... You're all set? Okay. With that information, again, anyone in the public like to make any more further comments? Okay. Please state your name.
Roy Kowalski. I reside at 5764 Point Trumbull, and I have been there for 25 years. I bought the property knowing that it was never going to be developed and back. Raised a family there, lived there a long time. I think, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, that rezoning this property, said property, without having an explanation of what's going there, especially to the longtime residents, is unfair. It's like writing a blank check. I would like to know what's going, I live 3 doors down from this property. I would like to know what's going there. We have a 2-lane highway that goes there that is very busy. Accidents weekly. Police pulling over. It's, the traffic, the road doesn't accommodate the current traffic situation that's there now. And it would be people accelerating and decelerating in front of my house. Opens up the avenue for accidents, people pulling around, turning around in my driveway. I just think that it needs to be clear why it should be rezoned and just not written a blank check, so to speak. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anyone who hasn't spoken? Anyone who hasn't spoken?
My name is Sheila McDonald. I live at 5804 Point Trimble Road. I would like to second Mr. Kowalski's concerns too, is that the back of my property is nothing but the Phragmites, and I'd like to know what's going back there, because there's nothing back there for miles, at least from my perspective. And I just wanted to make sure I understand right now that most of this property is going to be considered wetland. Nothing can be done on it except for a small parcel, which is asking to be rezoned. Am I correct? Is that how this is?
That's the information we've heard.
Okay. I guess the one thing that I would like to know, it makes a difference where, as Mr. Kowalski said, where and what this business is, if it's there. I think Ms. Ferris said something about it might dry up, but would you build on something that had previously been a wetland and now is a little bit dry? I mean, I grew up in this area, and, what's wet is wet. It's wet behind my house for a good deal back from my property line. So that's what I'm concerned about. Is this considered a wetland, and what exactly, in what area are we developing? Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone who hasn't spoken yet on this topic? State your name, please.
Sure. My name is Karen Blair, and I live at 9481 Maynard. I work at the school. I've been there for 25 years at the high school. This is pretty close to the high school, and there are a lot of kids that walk to the chill box back and forth on the sidewalk. So to change this whole thing, I'm concerned about the safety of the kids. Obviously, living on Maynard, I don't want to see what's behind my house turned into a subdivision. Like the lady said, sometimes it's flooded, but a lot of times it's not. And what if we rezone it? He builds his subdivision. I don't know. I just wanted to say about the school mostly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who has not yet spoken on this public hearing? All right. I see no other hands. Going to close the public hearing at 7:38. Okay, board members. Any discussion, thoughts?
Yeah, I've got a thought.
Sure.
We reviewed it very similar to this a year ago, and nothing has changed in the master plan since then, so I don't know why anything would change now. I mean, we're going to do a master plan review coming up this year, and maybe at that time you look at it, and I just don't want to kick the can down the road. But, I've seen nothing that would compel me to change my thoughts on it from what they were a year ago.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm just kind of concerned about the traffic issue on M29. I drive it every day, sometimes 4 or 5 times a day, and I have to agree with the gentleman. The roads can't handle this. I don't see a deceleration lane. They say they don't need one. I don't know. I see them turning into Danny's, Chill Box. I see them turning into First Cup. I see them turning into Wanda's. I see accidents almost every other day.
But that's just my thought.
Nope, 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 nope. Your opportunity was over, I'm sorry. Sorry. Any other board members?
I have, for the owner, I understand wanting the rezoning from residential to commercial. What's the purpose of changing the residential zoning to a different residential zoning?
We have no intention of doing that.
Okay,
Unless the city wants to.
I got it, okay.
Governments, we can't get into.
Could be a tax advantage.
I just had my answer given to me, so.
What's the?
Well,
You talk about doing farming over
the
there.
farming, so the rural,
So changing it to RS1.
changing it to the RS
Would
one
allow you to
instead of
do that.
R1.
There's
And
no
the-
flexibility on wetlands issue.
Well, I'm familiar with that, so that's,
I see the last thing. Somebody was talking about the road traffic. We had the road commission come in. There's going to be we recommend acceleration lane on this property. Nobody will be turning in, going on the acceleration.
and then my second question, would be for Karen. What's the definition, or the closest definition you could give me on the convenience retail uses? What?
I would think of like a corner store or like the chill box.
So something similar to what's already in that area.
Correct, yeah.
And I guess with that, because I know everybody's kind of concerned with, previously with the Dollar General, that would be above that convenience retail, correct?
I'd say it would depend, each district has their own set of standards that has to be met. Last time, they were requesting C3, which might allow for a bigger building, might need more parking. Something in the C2 district might need bigger setbacks, you might be limited in your building size more so than your C3. I can check real quick though. But it is in general, it's a less intense district. And like I said, the C3 district, it states that its intent is to basically have regional trade
Okay.
set up there.
But this would be something more in line with what's there already.
Yeah, the building, I mean, whatever was allowed for that building to the east was people said it was a burger restaurant.
The Atkins's.
It's the same zoning.
So they'll allow drive-through.
It says no drive-through.
It has-
They can get a drive-through.
It's special
Special land
Yes,
use.
that's what I'm saying. They could go for a special land use on that. So it would be just like Ackett's then.
Right.
It could be.
Could be. And the C3 district, which is what was requested last time, it specifically says retail stores, which I'd say a Dollar General, I mean, that is a retail store. Convenience retail uses, to me, that sounds like something that's smaller scale. You guys don't necessarily have I'll look in your definitions, it might specifically say what a convenience retail is versus just a general retail.
Well, would you consider Danny's a convenience retail? Something of that size?
It's So convenience retail is any retail establishment offering for sale packaged food products, household items, newspapers, and magazines, and sandwiches, and other freshly prepared foods such as salads for off-site consumption. So it could be a, could be a
Yeah.
dollar store.
Any other questions for board members? Motion?
I make a motion to recommend to the Township Board approval of the rezoning of the property at 5660 Point Trumbull.
Should you state in your motion the rezoning request?
Yeah, the rezoning of the front 3.28 acres to C2, and the remaining portion, which was 33. Trying to see what the remaining was.
40.38 acres, it says?
Yeah, the remaining 40.38 acres to RS1.
I will second that.
Normally, I would ask our recording secretary to repeat the motion, but would you mind repeating it one more time?
Yep. That motion to recommend to the Township Board approving the rezoning request for 5660 Point Trumbull Road, the 3.28 acres to C2 Small Business, and the remaining 40.38 acres to RS1.
So we have a motion by Chris, support by Robert, correct?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Robert, would you have a moment? Roll call, please.
Whitey Simon,
No.
Harold Bain,
No.
Mark Bouchard,
Oh, wait,
No.
he's
Oh,
excused.
excuse me.
He's up.
Better not be voting.
Yep. Chris Hiltunen,
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno,
No.
Margie Ferris,
Yes?
and Kathy Schweikart.
Yes.
That would be a
4-3.
4-3.
So at that rate, it goes now to the Board of Trustees, correct, Karen? And it's totally up to the Board of Trustees what they want to do as far as the rezoning recommendation.
And
So I would suggest that all members who are interested that are present today, I don't know when it will be on the Board of Trustees agenda. You can check with the office, and they will be able to let you know it's going to be put on there. They have the final say in regards to the rezoning, okay? So I'd highly encourage everybody to attend. All right, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our next item, which is item number, is under public hearing. It would be item, well, not item number, it's going to be the Porcat application, which I don't have an address necessarily for, but I think we all know which we're talking about. So I will open this public hearing at 7:48. So, Karen.
So tonight we have a special land use application. This is at the parcel number 74-14-442-0039-000. And the applicant is requesting this site to be used as outdoor storage on a gravel lot. This is a special land use in the C3 district, and it is in connection to the mini storage warehouse facility that is located next door. When we do the review for this, we look at what the district regulations are for the C3 district. They set the minimum lot size, building heights, and the setbacks for the proposed use, as well as parking requirements. The applicant met all these requirements, except they need to confirm that they meet the landscaping requirement. They're required to have 7.5% landscaping on the site, and the applicant needs to confirm if that is met for this proposed use on this site. And the criteria for mini warehouses and self-storage facilities, there's a lot of requirements if you have buildings on site. However, this is going to be an open lot, so therefore those standards aren't applicable to what the applicant's requesting on this site plan right now. They meet the ingress and egress requirements for the site. Again, they're not proposing any new buildings. They're allowed to store recreational vehicles, motorhomes, and travel trailers on an area that's made of aggregate treated surface or better. Applicant meets this requirement. The only outstanding item, again, is a landscaping issue. A 5-foot landscaped green belt should be provided between the property line and wall where the site abuts any residential district. All materials shall be planned in conformance with the general provisions article in the zoning ordinance. This site does abut residential to the north and east, and therefore this green belt needs to be provided. And so I would recommend that the applicant update their site plan to show that they meet the 7.5 landscaping requirement, as well as this green belt wherever it's adjacent to those residential properties.
Question?
Sure, go ahead.
Question, what makes this a special land use? Because outdoor storage is permitted in a C3.
It says outdoor storage for display of sales. So if you have like a car dealership, or, or if you're displaying your wares outside, you're allowed to do that in the C3 district. But if you're having a commercial, if this outdoor storage is in relation to your storage business, where you're making money off this storage, then that falls under the mini warehouse and self-storage, because in here, there are provisions for if you are having outdoor storage in relation to this use.
Right, but I guess it's just the way it's read then, because the way I read it is outdoor storage was permitted. It didn't really say that it was.
I'll double check. I believe the language for outdoor storage for sales and display was the language.
Okay.
But I can check that real quick right now.
I mean, I guess we're here for a public hearing anyway, so it's not like we're going to stop a public hearing. I was just questioning why it would be a, okay.
Any other questions for the planner at this point? Okay. Mark, thank you for rejoining us. I should acknowledge you're back. Thank you. The applicant or the representative for Corcat, please state your name.
My name is Paul Muscat. I'm the owner of Corcat Mini Storage. We're here today asking for approval on our site plan for outdoor storage. We're currently operating our outdoor storage on a temporary approval on our area that's currently approved for buildings. We want to expand and build more buildings. In order to do that, we have to move those stored items over to this new parcel. So we're requesting that gets approved. The drawing does show a 10-foot green belt all the way around the perimeter of the gravel space. I thought I emailed that to you, but we can talk about that after. It is shown on the drawing. If anybody has any question, I'd be more than happy to point that out to you.
Is that an updated drawing set?
Do you mind if I
Sure, come
approach?
on.
I didn't bring my glasses.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck.
You can tell me it says 10 feet, I'll believe it.
That's a good one.
Magnifying glass.
I can see through glasses.
I see 10-foot side setback.
10-foot green.
Okay.
It says drainage swale, and that is going to be a grass green pool. Light swale.
Is that the same as ours?
Yeah,
All the way around.
it is.
Well, it's around here.
It's talking
It's
about
not
right
one
here
in
where
my
it
current
says
parcel.
That could be like
drainage swale, yep,
So that's this right here?
that would be the green belt.
Can maybe update that with the dimension?
Yeah, it's scalable, yeah, for sure.
Just for the
No question, no problem.
Karen, do you agree?
I also double check, because I don't know if you need to plant so many shrubs or trees.
What are you talking about?
Let me look.
Yeah, I don't
Hold on a
think
second.
Doesn't say anything about
pushing.
What I got.
So,
But either way, we can figure out the green space.
so the checklist, it says for the building department. Hey, Gary? Gary?
Gary, you're on the seat. Gary, they want to talk to you.
Site obscuring. On your building department checklist for this project, it says, does the proposed use meet front, rear, or side, back? Site obscuring wall or fence or other screening required by PC. I'm not sure what this says.
There'll be screen fence on the residential sides.
Same as there is on the current one, right?
Correct. There's screen fence on the current, where I
Okay.
abut residential currently.
Yes.
It'll be the same way where we abut residential on the backside as well.
So-
And on the east side as well.
So that's on your site plan as well?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Correct? Thank you, Gary.
Hey, Paul?
Yes, sir.
How soon are you going to extend the current storage units?
When am I going to start construction on new buildings? As soon as I get these current trailers moved, before the end of the year.
Okay.
Our goal is to pour some concrete this summer, fall, and build buildings before it gets cold.
And this going to be recreational vehicles only, or is it going to be
Trucks,
Vehicles.
trailers,
boat trailers,
boat trailers,
abandoned cars? No?
I mean, hopefully not.
Go with that.
Any further questions?
Right. They have to have a title and a registration when we drop them, but that doesn't mean that changes.
Any other board members have questions at this point? Karen, I think you were looking something up. Did you?
Yeah, I'm looking up the green belt.
Do you need a few more minutes?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. How about we see if we have anybody in the audience who'd like to come forward? Thank you so much for your
Thank you so much.
presentation. Any members in the audience who'd like to come forward? Just one at, hold on, are you both one at a time?
Yeah, we're just coming up at a bit closer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Just please state your name.
My name is Jerry Pello. I reside at 3311 Fruit, and I will be the neighboring property to this eyesore of a storage unit. They've already expanded it, and where he says, I'm concerned right off the bat because he says he's going to put up the same style fence. Well, in that gravel pit storage area, it's 2 to 3 feet lower than the neighboring residence. So that 6-foot fence on her side is only 3 to 4 feet tall. That's unacceptable. I don't even know how this happened, how it was allowed. And I know that I'm sitting here, I'm the only one because I'm going to be forced to live next door to this. And what I've seen over the last almost 9 years of living in Clay Township is we're doing improvements. We've been doing improvements here. The park, the water park, the rest area at the pier. I mean, these are all enhancing Clay Township. What we're doing here is we're throwing up an eyesore bordering residential houses. If I would have known this, I never would have even bought my house. If I even thought that this could happen, I never would have bought this house. This is a deal breaker for me. And I really hope that it doesn't just come down to meeting a list of ordinances. You know, are we taking in consideration what's best for Clay Township? Isn't the goal always to improve, enhance, and get people to come out here and move out here? There was this luxury when we did move out here that, you know, it wasn't the country and it wasn't the city. We used to get deer in our backyard. Not since they expanded this storage unit. They quit coming. I've lost 75% of the wildlife, and I do understand that that's not a consideration in this, but it also is what brings people to Clay Township to live here. It's that luxury of not being in the city, not quite exactly out in the sticks in the country. And I know I can rattle on, and I'm the only one here because I am going to have to live next to this. I cannot sell my house at this time. It's not cost-effective for me, or there'd already be a for sale sign on this property. This is an absolute deal breaker for me. It's a heartbreaker. I've been sick to my stomach over this. Just the expansion of the one storage unit. I gotta drive past that, or we gotta drive and ride past that on a daily basis, and now we're gonna make it bigger? All I'm saying is, man, please consider what's best for Clay Township in the overall big picture here, not just a list of ordinances. Life's larger than that, and I hope it's larger than that in Clay Township. So all I'm saying is just take that into consideration when you're thinking about doing this. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you for showing up, I appreciate it. Anyone else? State your name, please.
My name is Cindy Pello, and I live at 3311 Fruit Street. I'm going to piggyback on what my husband just explained to you and add that 3-foot fence that's supposed to be 5 foot has become a coyote run. And so people all over our neighborhood are seeing coyotes everywhere because of that run.
Could you
So,
direct the rules, you have to...
face you?
Yeah, you have
Okay.
to direct it
Well, I
towards
want
us.
you to know
No, I
that that's
appreciate that.
part of the
Sure.
complication of this,
Thank
is that you've opened up coyotes, which is why we don't have the other wildlife anymore. Now, there are hawks, there are other things, but there's a run there now, along that fence line, that sunk 2-3 feet, whatever it is. You can see the ditch if you drive by and bother to take a look. The other thing I want to say is that road in front of our house where the truckers come through right there is already practically destroyed from what you built, from what you redid a year ago. It's already trashed. Every day, those truckers drive through, trash it more. Right next door to that, you're going to have this storage unit that they already have an emergency entry coming in and out. So that's going to bring more traffic in a residential area. Now I'm going to just stop it for a moment and talk about my next door neighbor, Cindy and Mark, who aren't here to defend themselves or explain how this has been a hardship for them. But I'm going to tell you, they will literally be surrounded like a horseshoe, their house, in an outside storage unit. And I know all about who was in last time and who got voted in this time, and I don't give a crap about it. I am telling you, that's a human being with a family raised there, who grew up in this town, who can't sell her house, who is forced to a one-person income, whose husband literally works for a company that at times works for the guy who's doing this. And if you think that didn't have an impact on his employment at the time some of this was going down, that's absolutely what happened. Now, one other thing. My next door neighbor, who's a realtor several doors down, who you all probably know, Shannon, she got a hold of me. She looked into this. She talked to Paul, got the inside scoop. And I will add that Paul was forthright enough to go to Cindy next door and give her a layout and tell her what was going on. But nobody knocked on my door. In fact, if Cindy hadn't come to tell me and my husband, we wouldn't know about any of this, except for the generic notice we got in the mail. And then I will just finish by saying that Shannon mentioned what a great thing it was because her house several doors down and all those beautiful homes that way, yeah, they're all going up in value. Ours is going down officially when this change happens. I have nothing else to say.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward? All right, we did receive, all of the board members did receive a letter from an individual named Shannon Cote, C-O-T-E. I'll read it. It says, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of Clay Township. My name is Shannon. I reside at 2985 Fruit Street, Clay Township. Normally, I would say, pardon my absence, however, I am down south enjoying a bittersweet and very short holiday from the cold winter, and it's hard to be apologetic for that. I am the owner of a 20-acre parcel that is a neighboring piece to the proposed storage facility that Cork had submitted a special use application for. In all, we have 22 acres with our residence that is enjoyed by family for horseback riding trails. A few of my neighbors, including a lovely couple of 85 years, use the trails for walking and enjoy the peaceful, quiet woods. When I learned that Corkcat had submitted the application, my initial reaction was, heck, no way, not in my lifetime. Quite the overreaction. I am a firm believer in small business. Our house, small towns survive. I am also a strong believer in not disturbing the peace, most especially my peace. I made this hard move and called Paul Muskrat of Corkhead and asked him, what the heck are you doing in my backyard? Really, it's my side yard, but who's keeping score? I spouted off all the things that were going to be so horribly wrong with what he was doing. We talked to every concern one by one. I need to tell you, it took more than one phone call. I came up with more questions later on. Of course I did. Paul, in my professional, but most importantly, personal opinion, was sincere and genuine about my outrage. He was going to destroy my, quote, middle of nowhere, quote, blissful oasis. When describing where I live, most everyone reacts essentially the same. Quote, I had no idea at all that was right there. That reaction puts a smile on my face. You're not meant to know it's there. I want to be certain that it stays that way. I am fairly certain my neighbors feel the same. No one wants their backyard slice of heaven intruded upon. Paul took the time to describe the site plan more than what we see on paper. With a 6-foot above-grade obscuring fence or wall and a 10-foot greenbelt, there will be no onlookers, no one thinking, hey, let's go wander over there. Additionally, Paul described the fantastic camera monitoring system they use that does not require lighting. Lighting was another one of my concerns. I didn't want everything lit up like a football field. That would definitely be disturbing the peace. 2 very long telephone conversations assured me that none of the surrounding properties would be disturbed by an elevation change with his proposed project, and that the property would be adequately maintained, free of garbage, greenbelt landscaping, continually managed. Essentially, I ran out of ways to disagree with him, short of telling him, quote, not in my backyard, end quote, which an argument that typically has, quote, us, end quote, as a community preventing commerce growth in the area. In short, I trust Corkhead and Paul Muscat to do right by the neighbors in the growth of his business. I have to extend that same faith to the township governing bodies to do right by their residents. I know that I have incredible neighbors and feel quite comfortable that Paul will be one of those neighbors as well. Thank you for listening to my opinion via proxy. It is greatly appreciated. That was the only written correspondence we received. So, anybody else in the public who hasn't spoken on this particular matter yet would like to come forward and speak? Hold on. Karen, since you've heard all this, you were doing some updating.
I just want to say, I was able to find, there are planting requirements as a part of this green belt.
Okay.
Because we're requesting a 5-foot green belt. For every 100 feet, there needs to be basically 1 shade tree, 2 ornamental trees, which shrubs. They specify the height of the caliber of these items. So plantings are going to be required as a part of that green belt.
I see you want to say something more? Why don't you come to the podium just so we can hear you for sure?
I have no issue amending my site plan to match the landscaping requirements. That can happen through final plan review, I would imagine. Secondly, the comments about the fence being above or below grade, that fence is technically not supposed to be on the site plan because at our final review last time, they made me take that away because of the non-conforming building next door that's too close to the property line. Technically, that fence is there just to secure the property now. Until I tear that down and build the buildings, the building will count as the fence. That's what we've agreed to in my planning commission review there. So that's a temporary setup that will be removed, and there'll be a building exactly where that fence is.
So the fence right now that's next to the house will be removed?
And the building will go there, yes.
Thank you for clarifying that.
No, thank you.
I have one question,
Go ahead.
too.
Go ahead.
It was stated by one of the public that their concern was the traffic that was going to enter that. You're not having traffic in and out on Fruit Street, correct? It's all got to go through where it currently comes through, the...
29?
All customer traffic will come in and out through our current M29 gated location. We have to control who's in and out of there. That's the only way we let, those accesses through there are for construction or emergency fire vehicles. So once the project's done, we won't be going in and out of there. That will be secured off, and it will be set up for fire or emergency access only.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That was my question, thank you.
I've got a question. Calling out a 6-foot tall fence, now you were parking things like motorhomes and that kind of thing in there?
Yep.
It seems like the top half of those will be sticking way up above them. Any thoughts to a higher fence, or bigger trees or something to screen it off so they don't have to look at it?
We can plant the trees as accordingly, but I don't know how we would support a 8 or a 10-foot fence there. I'm not sure that would be cost
Make any
prohibitive
sense,
or
yeah.
make any sense.
But somehow it seems it would need to be screened off. I mean, I wouldn't want to look at a row of motorhomes popping up alongside my house either.
Gary, do you have anything to add? Shaking his head no.
You have anything else for me?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from members of the audience that have not spoken on this topic? All right, I close the public hearing on this item at 8:10. Discussion with the board?
So Karen, I guess a question for you, onto the shrubs and the trees for the screening and that, can like a minimum height be set for that, or how's that work?
So there's a guide in here, and like the shrubs, they have to be at least 24 inches in height. The trees have to be a certain caliper when they're initially planted, so that's how there's an appendix in the back and it lists all the landscaping. Yeah, has to meet if a green belt's required, and it was stated in this case.
So my question is, where the gravel storage area is gonna be, it's abutting R1. And if I'm reading this right, a C3 to a R1 needs the green belt F, which is 50 feet wide.
It does state that, but in this specific ordinance, it says it only has to be 5. So I think
Okay.
you can only ask them for 5.
Okay, that was just, so that's, I mean, I guess with that being said, I think we need to
We need to check that.
check that out and look into that too. So,
Make a note that we need to take a look at that.
yep. For what this is Appendix A, and it's green belt requirements, and if you look for C3 abutting to an R1, it says that you need 50 foot. And that's just I'm not even looking at the ordinance. It's just a chart.
Provisions, but as stated in the specific special land use, it says when abutting residential, you only need 5 feet.
Okay,
So I think because the special land use is specifically calling that out, that is what we need to be following.
so that would be the half green belt?
Yeah.
So it'd be half green belt A would be what we're looking at then? Okay.
I would also point out in Karen's review that, because this is a special land use request, correct, Karen? There are 7 bullet points that we should make sure that this request is meeting. And that would be on it says my page 54. Any other comments, questions?
So on page 4 or 6, Karen, under the facilities, on item 3, it says a 10-foot landscape green belt between the property. Let me reread this before I start talking, but.
There's a 10-foot green belt when it's abutting the road, but because this property's set back,
Okay,
that front belt is not.
but the green belt is to be between the property line and the fence, correct? So that would be, if this was to be his green belt, this would actually be on the wrong side of the fence.
It's supposed to be on the,
It's supposed to be between the property line and the fence, not inside of the fence.
Should be on the outside of the fence.
If these are representing the posts, this should be over on this, here's the property line.
green belt on the-
So the green belt should be
Private side.
here, and his fence should be on this side of the 5-foot green belt.
Correct, yeah.
Karen, you agree with that?
I do agree. So that fence would need to be brought in.
You see what
Right here,
I'm saying?
right here.
Yep, because there was a property line.
So, Paul, do you understand what he's saying?
Yeah.
green belt goes on the outside of the
So
fence.
this, because here's the property line,
Yeah.
so that fence should be on this side of
Put it
the
on the
5-foot
inside,
green belt.
that doesn't
Yeah,
matter to me, I'm not putting anything in there anyway.
yeah.
I'm whatever you got.
So we can just amend your site plan for that? Okay, thank you.
The landscaping will be on the outside.
Landscaping will be on the outside of the fence and.
Yep.
Go here? No, we'll go on the outside all along here. You gotta have the fence, then 10 foot.
No.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, just a comment, Kathy. Looking at the special land use criteria, number 3,
Yes.
will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained in harmony with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and as such such use will not change the essential character of the area in which it is proposed.
Correct.
I guess in my opinion, it changes that.
Well, I can see why you say that. It's already got a mini storage right next to it.
Yeah, I know, but you
And
look on the
lumberjack's
other
right
side
there.
though. Yeah.
But
I
you'd have
mean,
that
I can see
every-
both sides of that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out the special land use criteria, because it is part of the consideration, so I understand what you're saying.
So you do have existing fencing around that, in the entire site plan, right? Fencing, existing, okay.
Any other questions, comments, motion, anything?
I'd make a motion to approve the special land use for parcel 74-14-442-0039-000 with the recommendation of the updated site plan addressing the landscaping concerns.
You're gonna have to do that.
Man, I don't even remember what I just said.
Hold on, give me 1 second.
Yeah, hold on.
You want me to read the numbers to you again?
Yeah, I got it here.
Oh, hey, there you go.
Think I memorized
So,
those.
to approve,
Special land use.
use with approval dependent updated landscaping plan showing vegetation and green belt between property line and fence. Good?
Good.
So,
How about this? Can you restate your motion now that he's
You want me
written
to read it?
Yep,
Sure,
read
you
it.
read the motion. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so approval of special land use for 74144420039000, with approval being dependent on updated landscaping plan showing vegetation and green belt between property line and fence.
So that's the motion. Do we have any support?
I'll go ahead and second that.
Motion and support. Any discussion? Hearing none, could you please do a roll call?
Whitey Simon?
Aye.
Harold Bain?
Yes.
Mark Bouchard?
Yes.
Chris Hiltunen?
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent. Robert Muesling, yes. Wayne Torno?
No.
Margie Ferris?
Yes.
And Kathy Schweikart.
Yes.
That's approved. So now I got a whole bunch of writing to do.
You do have a bunch of writing to do. Hold on. We'll give you a minute, okay?
And do we have, no, there's three here.
There's three there, okay? Actually,
Or do we want to,
He's got to have an update.
can you update that versus us writing on here? And then, well, there's one or two ways we can do it. We can write it on here, and then we all sign it, so we don't have to all show up at the township and try to get this signed.
yep,
How about we do it that way?
I like that.
Because otherwise, sometimes it's hard for us to make that happen. So how about we do that?
Yep.
Approved with condition.
So, let's do that
Approved with
first.
condition that's stated in the motion, which is green belt. Fair enough? That way we don't have to try to make it back.
10 foot of green belt.
I'm sorry?
10 foot of green belt.
Okay.
Did he get it? 10 foot?
10 foot of green belt?
5 foot green belt.
5 foot?
Yeah.
That's what it requires, but it has 10 foot.
He's got 10 foot on the print. It's showing 10.
He
We're
needed
gonna go with 10,
5.
right?
All right, good.
Well, if 5 zone 5 is required,
That's what it
Well,
is.
the plantings will only be
Today's
at
the 26th,
the
correct?
5 foot
it's gonna-
scale.
Okay.
So, because that's what it's asking for, so.
There's one.
Would you like to come forward so you can sign also?
She was for or against?
You got a pen, right?
It sounded like, I didn't know if she was for or against.
Against it.
It sounded like,
It should be applicant. Yep. That's you.
We might need to look at getting a new stamp. I said we might need to look at getting a new stamp
Yeah,
too.
you read between the lines on that one.
yeah.
I know Shannon real well. You know her?
No.
Oh, one more after that one.
My golf
You get to
partner,
take
all
one.
the outings.
Oh, is she?
She's a hell of a golfer.
Good luck.
Nice.
Really?
That means Bruce needs to move his car. It's a ways out, I'll let him know.
They'll tell you she beat you with a broken leg. Oh, my God, Mark.
Is it? You know what, I can let him know when we talk to you, because I don't, he may not be in for a while, so if he needed,
Where she fell off the saddle or whatever, put it in the stone, and just pulled her all over.
that's okay. That one's yours to keep, and the other ones will go to the building department, okay? Thank you so much, go for your budget.
And I wrote everything on the wrong paper.
Good.
Yes, for this one.
Do you have an extra one?
Nope.
Let's see what you do.
I wrote this for this. Other paper.
You know what? Yeah. Just put a big note at the top, so he knows, you know?
Yeah, I'll just see this.
Pass it out.
Problem with people is
Okay.
they don't like change.
Is it okay if I move forward?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to move on to item number 6A, which is renewable energy legislation. And that would be Karen, right?
So, starting in November last year, the state has essentially taken away local control of how communities can regulate large-scale wind, solar, and battery energy storage facilities. And a lot of communities are trying to figure out what their options are, what they can do. The state has basically told communities, if you adopt essentially the state regulations or regulations that are even less restrictive, you can do the local review yourself, and they are providing a financial incentive to do so. I believe a community will get $5,000 per proposed megawatt hour the facility would generate. But if a local community were to do the review, you still have to follow essentially your site plan review process, which means that basically you have a few months to make a decision and go through a normal site plan review process, just using the criteria that the state is using, or even less restrictive criteria. A community can choose to not adopt any regulations, and just if a developer were to approach the community, you would say, look, we don't do the review for this, you have to go through the state. If a developer does go through the state, which is always an option for them, regardless if they would like to go through a local option or not, the state process, they're estimating, is probably going to take about a year for a lot of developers, which is why a lot of potential developers may want to go through a local process, which is why MTA and U of M are encouraging communities to maybe come up with something called a workable ordinance, which basically, you know, you develop a large-scale energy ordinance or modify your current one to be something that developers can work with while also keeping community values and protecting neighboring properties. When you look at what the state currently has, you know, they do have some good things in place that a lot of communities don't have when it comes to these large-scale facilities, such as having regulations about, you know, having dark sky-friendly provisions, and also having an emergency plan or a fire protection plan if, unfortunately, something were to happen to the facility. As well as, you know, having a decommissioning plan where if the project gets abandoned or decommissioned, they have to remove everything and bring the property back to the state it was before it was even developed. So there are provisions like that that a lot of communities don't currently have. But then again, the state has provisions where the setbacks of these facilities are probably a lot closer than what a lot of communities are going to be comfortable with. The measurement for setbacks for solar and battery and wind, I believe, is the setback starts from where the facility fence ends to the nearest wall of the either residential or some kind of community building, as opposed to you have to be set back so many feet from the property line. So that's something that a lot of communities aren't comfortable with. A lot of communities aren't comfortable with the decibel levels that are permitted with the state legislation. So I presented a kind of outline of what are your options presented by U of M, what communities can do if they'd like to take action or not. And speaking with Steve and your attorney, a lot of communities are opting to just be silent on the issue, and so all applicants just have to go through the state process. There are 2 communities I'm working with that are working on developing a workable ordinance. Again, nothing's been adopted though, but it is something that we're exploring at the moment. And I don't know of any communities that have decided to adopt the CREO, which is the compatible ordinance that's compatible with what the state has. Very few communities are doing that. So, again, I'm making you aware of the legislation because kind of all communities are fair game when it comes to any of these things. Yes, you guys probably aren't a win candidate because we're just geographically not in the area, but solar and battery storage can kind of happen in any community. And so, I guess the planning commission should think about what action they'd like to take. In speaking to your township attorney about another community, the firm had basically told communities, if you think that regardless, even if you come up with a workable ordinance that you think might, maintain the township's values, if you think no matter what comes in, it's going to be just extremely controversial, it might be in the best interest to defer to the state. But again, like I said, two communities nearby, they are looking at adopting a workable ordinance that I know of. So, just something to think about.
You're saying that the work adoptable ordinance, but the state's going to come in and trump you every time.
Well, that's true. I guess the advantage of a workable ordinance is the developer might look at what's in your ordinance and say, hey, I'm okay with meeting these standards. Maybe the setbacks will be larger than what the states would have otherwise, allowed them, and maybe they'll have to meet lower decibel levels than they otherwise would if they went through the state. But if there's the potential that they could be approved in 3 months and get going, as opposed to waiting in line for state approval, word on the street is that may be more appealing to a developer, to want to work with a community and meet some of these standards as opposed to go through the state. I don't know of anyone who's been approached yet, and like I said, no one has adopted these workable ordinances yet. And so, again, this is all a really big gray area. Could they look at a workable ordinance and say, I'd rather go through the state? Sure, they can totally do that, and the state can approve it at this point in time. But
You had a chance to speak to anybody in the board of trustees?
I have not yet. I reached out, and we haven't had a time to have a meeting yet and talk about anything.
Okay.
But just so you know, these are kind of your options, either, again, defer to the state, decide to adopt something. Again, the recommendation of the state telling communities to adopt a CREO is something that's very few communities are doing. Because again, if you look at the state's regulations, and if you feel that doesn't really align with your community's values, then I would not recommend that be language that gets adopted into the zoning ordinance.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Do you have an example of a workable ordinance?
I can present one. I can present one. I can email it to you guys.
Just to see what it would look like, how
Sure. Basically,
complex it is.
the workable ordinance that we're coming up with is basically language that they had for their large-scale solar and their wind ordinance, as well as adopting some of the state language, like like I said, the fire protection plan, dark sky friendly, lighting, decommissioning plan, a bond for all these things, financial assurances. They've adopted stuff like that, but again, they're still maintaining their setbacks and setbacks from the property line as opposed to just building walls. So, yeah.
State ordinances, or a copy of that anywhere?
Yes. I can email that to you guys as well. It's online at all the state legislative information. It's on there.
Governor.com?
Yeah.
You know how that's going to impact Eagle on any of the construction, other than not being in wetlands?
I'm not quite sure.
Well, I seen the one on 69, and that's right up against the fences all the way around out there. And that, their switchgear building is like right in the middle of everything, and it's kind of goofy looking.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really want that in a neighborhood.
No, and on top of that, the state legislation, it's not requiring screening at all. And that's another thing a lot of communities are taking issue with. And in the workable ordinance I'm working with on the communities, they're maintaining their original screening, which is, it's pretty heavy green belt berms. They're also requiring that they have a soundproof fence or some kind of soundproof technology either around the inverters or something just to tamper down the noise that you would hear at the property line.
So would they have any diesel generator backups on gray days? Are they allowing
On
that?
batteries, they might.
Well, that's another concern. I mean, are some places here, are they going to run it on propane, diesel fuel, or what, I mean, natural gas?
We don't know. We haven't, I haven't seen any of these site plans, so I don't really know exactly what's being
I
proposed.
know
But
two
again,
that are diesel backup with natural gas.
well,
And
then
they're
that's something the community has to consider if they want to adopt protections, if they think something like that might go in.
What kind of noise do they produce? I mean, how loud are they?
I think state legislation allows them to be up to like maybe 50 decibels at the wall of the, the nearest building. So again, it's something where it's bypassing the property line standard that we typically see in a lot of planning and zoning issues.
That's pretty good. That's a high level.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Are you willing to email us those two different items or send it to Amber and she
Sure,
can distribute it to
Well,
us?
I would say, I'll send you the state legislation, I mean, it's a lot.
Sure.
It's a book, so I'd say, we'll look at the link for that, and for the workable ordinance, again, what we're working on right now, it's covering wind, solar, battery, and it is like 20 pages at the moment, but I can email that to you as well.
What's the smallest solar farm that they've put, I mean, obviously there's like rooftop one, but like.
Smallest
I know there's
utility
some-
scale?
Yeah,
I don't know off the top of my head. They're probably not as big as you might think they
well,
are.
I know some of them are like, what, 10 acres or so? I
You-
mean, that's,
There's a source basically showing what's out there right now in Michigan, utility
Yeah.
scale wise. And they have a chart and they'll tell you where they're located, how big they are. That's something that's also U of M is tracking, and I can share that with you guys as well.
because, I mean, that's, I guess one of our, based on that would be, I'd say, dependent on how much we want to look into this, because if we don't have any properties that are the size, like, you know what I'm saying? If we don't have lots that are suitable for them to come in and put a solar field in, does it really make sense to have?
So
go through everything?
here's the catch with that. So you can have a combination of facilities that meet this nameplate capacity. And you could have a combination of facilities that are miles apart in different communities. But if they're all somehow tied into this nameplate capacity facility, and they're all considered a single project, you can have 5 acres in Clay, you can have 30 acres in Ira, and you can cross jurisdictions like that
Right.
and have some distance, and it could still be under the same project.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is if they're not going to want anything less than a 5-acre lot to put in a solar field, how many of those lots are going to be relevant to what, I know what
Yeah.
you're saying, and that, like, but how many of those lots are actually going to be available for them to come in and put a solar, I mean, that's just what I'm saying, is if.
I guess
if
as
we
many
don't-
as you can convince people to lease to you.
No, I know, but I mean, if we only have so many lots that are available to do this, I
That's
mean,
true.
obviously, somebody can sell their house and demo it and put, they might have a 10-acre lot and demo their house and put this out there or whatever, but that's not really feasible, right? So, I mean, that's, I'd say, maybe if we can find, like, what's the standard lot size, minimum lot size that they're looking for these or whatever, or roughly,
Right.
before we say, oh, yeah, let's go and worry about this. I mean, that's kind of where I'm saying, it's because
Right.
do we want to go through and do all the work if it's not something that, if there's one location in Clay Township that they might want to put something in, how much time do we need to spend on it, especially if the state can come back and trump everything that we do?
That's true.
Do you connect, or does that law connect the, look at the connectivity of the multiple pieces? We'd have to via connection from Clay Township to Ira to Jackson County. And that again would require cooperation and.
Right, so I believe from what I've gathered, if there is interjurisdictional, if there's a project that is interjurisdictional, it will automatically go to the state unless all those communities decide to adopt a workable and the developer is okay with all those workables. They could still choose to, I believe they do have the option, then they could possibly pursue. But like I said, this is all kind of a gray area because none of this has actually happened yet, so.
Well, I know they're doing one that's, I know of that's like East China and Cotraville. And I think there's like 80 acres altogether, and I think there's like 40 acres here and like 10 acres there. So, I mean, I don't think anything like that drastic is going to happen, but, and I know there are some that are crossing community lines.
What kind of voltage would they be putting out? What? Typical what we have now, or is it going to be, are they going to step it down? Huh?
Almost have to go to 440 to get into the grids.
No, it's phases. Yeah. Euro State is only 3 megawatt.
So it's going to act like one great big, or several substations.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly what it would act like.
Yeah. There'd be a lot of copper in it.
What are you getting at, Mark?
Well, hey, I did a lot of that work down in Detroit, and believe me, one day copper there, and the next day it's gone. Sometimes we'll find the body with it too, but.
Okay, we're going to move on now. How is that?
Shall I go on?
No, we're going to move on at this particular point after that one. Went a little too long. 6B, master plan review process. Karen?
Right, so you guys are due to review your master plan, and I think a good way to start is just to get a snapshot of what the latest statistics are in Clay Township before we proceed with kind of reviewing your last published master plan. And so I brought you guys a Michigan Municipal League fact sheet on the master plan process, as well as the snapshot from SEMCOG. So you can see where the township changed demographically or economically, and where you guys have kind of stayed the same, where you guys are growing.
And how correct is that data?
SEMCOG's pretty reliable.
Thank
That's what
you.
all communities use and look at.
So let me ask you this, Karen. This is part of what you're retained to do is to, because we have to every 5 years look at this. And I know last time we did it, some of us were here for that very long process. And I think it was kind of an extensive process last time because we had a lot of work put into it.
Well, 5 years was quite extensive. And did you foresee it being extensive this year as we did 5 years ago?
I'd say, because you guys had such a thorough, and I'd say you essentially produced a new plan, I would say us looking at, again, the information, like demographic information now, and then let's just reread your current plan and see, do we see areas where there has been a major change, or just, a change in direction or policy changes that maybe we need to update it. But to be honest, I don't want to talk myself out of a job, but I don't foresee an extensive change. If anything, I think maybe we might need to make maybe a minor modification where we see fit, or maybe we just re-adopt what you guys have. I just worked with China Township. We went through,
demographic and economic information, and we read their master plan, which I think they originally adopted in 2009, and we decided, hey, guess what, nothing's really changed, and we re-adopted it again, so, yeah.
Apparently Ira Township is working on theirs right now because we got notification. I don't know if you know that or not, so.
So we do need to send out notification that we're in the process of reviewing our master plan, and then go from there. How, you know, once that review is done and whatever path we decide to take, we do need to make another notification to townships, but at this point, we can just say we're starting the review process.
So what would you like us as planning commission members to do from your point of view? Obviously, hopefully everybody's read what you submitted to us. So,
Page one.
I already, yeah. What would be your suggestion to?
I would say if anyone hasn't reviewed the SEMPAC stuff, take a look at it, and then maybe we will, you know, I'll take a look at your master plan and maybe review maybe the first two sections of it, and just, again, just general conversation, hey, do we think this all still aligns today? And if something doesn't, we'll just make note of it, and we can circle back to it later after we've reviewed everything, but.
So are you thinking, starting next month, we should review the first two sections, or what's your timeline, do you think?
I think so.
Okay.
I think we have to review it, so we're just reviewing your latest master plan. I'll confirm with Amber, because I need to take a look, I don't know how many sections your ordinance is split up and how many pages each of these things are. So whatever I think would be, if we want to wrap up our review in the next, 6 to 8 months or sooner, then we got to figure out how to divvy it up, so.
So Amber's our point of contact, so if you want to speak with her, or Aubrey, how you want to
Yeah, I'll
communicate.
take a look at it and figure out, because obviously I don't want to assign you guys 50 pages to read, but I don't know how big those sections are, so.
Some are bigger than others, but, okay, we'll just look forward to you through Amber.
I'll try to break it up into like 10, 15-page chunks.
Okay.
So I think that would help us get through it.
You foresee calling special meetings for this?
At this point, I'd say no.
I don't think so at this point. I mean, no, I'm going to say no.
Hey, why not?
Mark, as much as I like to see you, no. Unless there's a need, we'll get there, but, I mean,
No.
Harold was here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us were here the last time through this.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, so, not all of us, but quite
Hey,
a
I was
few
just
of
trying to
us.
get everybody $40, okay?
Okay.
I hope that it's more of a slight revision than anything else.
We could hope. And obviously, there's a cost factor, which I'm also looking at, too. I mean, every time we do a special meeting, there's a cost factor there. Karen, at this point, is
I don't think we
already
need any special meetings myself. Well, I just don't want to piggyback it off of.
already involved in this, and her
Agenda.
money aspect is already taken care of to some extent on this one, so. And, yeah, I mean, I can read more than 15 pages in 1 month if I need to, but use your better judgment, how's that?
When's the last time it's been done?
Do you know?
That was like,
It was during COVID.
Yeah, it's COVID.
It was COVID, because we did Zoom. That was fun, trying to do a master plan with COVID. Tried doing that with doing public
Yeah.
hearings. That was a heck of a lot of fun. Don't want to repeat that one. So, all right, thank you very much, Karen. Appreciate that. Look forward to your telling us what we need to look at. Moving on to unfinished business, which is number 7, conditional rezoning, which we have in our packet. Karen, I'm going to go with you again. I believe you talked to Christine Anderson, our township attorney, about this.
Right, so, for the county's recommendation, we don't currently have a, process in our ordinance for how the township would handle conditional rezoning, so they recommended that we adopted such language. So I took the language that MTA had, so I thought it was pretty good, and the township attorney took a look at it, and her red marks are provided in this, and I agree with all her changes, but I do think this is something that the planning commission should move forward on, so we have a procedure in place next time such a request comes up.
So is this one they would do a motion and then make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees, or is this solely
We
our?
have to hold a public hearing.
We'd have to hold a
We'll be
public hearing,
changing
okay.
The planning commission, so we would, if the planning commission is comfortable with this language and they want to move forward, we could make a motion to schedule a public hearing for it, or if you guys want to take time to review it and make sure that you're satisfied with the procedure that's laid out. But again, this is very standard language. It's language recommended by MTA, and your attorney has looked at it and provided a commentary on it.
Okay, our next meeting day would be March 26th, if anybody needed to know that. Obviously, Karen's looked at this, our attorney, Christine Anderson, has looked at this. Do the board members want any more time to review? It's only 4 pages.
I read
Or
it.
should we look
I say you make the
towards-
motion.
Somebody make a motion, then how's that?
I move
Oh.
that we-
I'm sorry, we have a notice issue.
Oh.
If it was going to go into the, if it was going to make the March meeting, it would have to go into the paper next week, and I believe that would have been due today.
Okay, so how about we go,
Short February month, so maybe
how about,
April.
what's the date of the April meeting? Do you, oh, I lost my paperwork.
The 23rd.
April 23rd? And that's because of the notice? All right, so do we have a motion, anyone?
Motion to set a public hearing for the proposed zoning ordinance amendment for conditional rezoning for the April 23rd meeting.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Hearing
No,
none,
I
roll
read
call,
it.
please.
Whitey Simon,
Aye.
Harold Bain,
Aye.
Mark Bouchard,
Yes.
Chris Altunen,
Yes.
Christine Holcomb is absent, Robert Muesling, yes, Wayne Torno,
Yes.
Margie Ferris,
Yes.
and Kathy Schweikart.
Yes, thank you. Item number 8 is planning consultant's report. Aaron?
I don't have any.
You're all talked out today? Okay.
Come on, after such a hard meeting last month.
There you go. Item number 9, ZBA representatives report, which would be Margie.
Yep, we haven't had a meeting.
Just haven't had one.
Long time.
Oh darn, we're gonna turn off some business. I know. Number 10.
Since last time.
Number 10 is Mark's board representative report.
The board's still feeling their way through and getting comfortable with one another, and if you care to go on the website and take a look at the last meeting that we had, it may be beneficial. One thing I want to emphasize on is the site plan that we approved for Quartet. It would be my hope that as you move through this process and you come to volition on it, that if there's any dispute with the neighbors, that you try to resolve that quickly and satisfactorily to where it makes everybody happy. Because we see too many of that going on in the township with different entities that... Projects that seem to be fighting with their neighbors. So it's a bad situation. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Number 11 is chairperson's report. I'd like to welcome Harold and Whitey to the planning commission. They've been here before, but welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for Robert and Chris taking care of the meeting last month. Appreciate it. You guys did a fantastic job. And other than that, thanks for everybody and your hard work. Number 12 is planning commission members' comments. Anybody have any comments on the planning commission?
I appreciated the information that was in the packet. Thank you.
I appreciate we get hard copies now.
I was going to say that.
Thank you. I forgot to mention that. Any other board members' comments?
You're looking at me. Yes, I do.
I knew you would. I'm getting used to this. Go ahead.
Okay, I sat through a webinar on Eagle. It was the introduction to Eagle, and it was really pretty interesting. And I've already got the presentation. I forwarded it on to Amber, so everybody will be getting that. But there was some kind of the highlights in it. There's 1,400 staff workers for Eagle in the state, which I found kind of interesting.
You mean they didn't get the memo?
Not
Not
yet.
yet, not yet.
I thought they were hiring.
Their home website, there's just a ton of stuff on there. There's all their events, some training, their calendar is on there. They've got the EHS combined environmental regulations there, and there are a ton of maps. I mean, you can go down 1,000 rabbit holes going into these maps. They're, if you want to see where the PFAS sites are, they're all there. Brownfield sites are, which brownfield sites have gotten grants and that. There's just a ton of stuff. And there'll be a link to this presentation. Anybody wants to see it, it'll be in the stuff that Amber sends out. The one thing I found really interesting was there's an Environmental Assistance Center phone number. And you can call them and ask them any question you want, and they'll get you to the right spot and get an answer. So,
Oh, that's a change, because
No kidding.
before you had to,
yeah, you'd go find the rabbit holes. So that was kind of that. It was kind of worthwhile to kind of drone down on the maps, but all in all, there was some good information in there, so.
were they talking about assistance with septic fields? Did I hear something
Yes.
about Eagle?
Yeah, I sat
giving
through, and
assist-
that's,
Yeah, I
that's
remember
available
reading
there.
about
You
that.
can go to it, yeah.
Yeah, but they,
You mentioned that we were gonna recommend that, because it's 0% interest, right? Loans for people.
Yeah, they have,
Failing septic
like
systems.
zero interest loans were available for people at the appropriate income level.
Right,
And it was like over a 10-year period to get your septic fixed. They just want them fixed.
right.
They're not gonna go give you a loan for a new house one, but if you have an existing field that's failing, they'll do that.
see,
And
that's good information. That should be
really
here at the
good.
township. That
I
the
looked on
township
the
should know
website, it's
that.
nothing's in there.
Huh, yeah, I thought Amber put that on the building site.
I looked in the building site, I didn't see it. Maybe I just didn't see it.
Why not, just
looking to
just
see,
shoot her a
because I
note and
thought
ask
that
her,
was a
'cause she's got
really
it.
good
Yeah, I
idea.
sent that over.
Yeah.
Hey, Skip, now that you brought Eagle up, the algae wheel, you probably all realize that Eagle really didn't pass the location for that Eagle wheel, algae wheel. But we're looking for property for credits. So we, for the change the property. We can still build there, but we need to find something else that Eagle will take over. So that's what we're looking for right now.
There's a lot more to that conversation,
Oh, yeah,
but we're not
right.
going to do that
No,
tonight.
That's a rabbit hole in itself.
That's a huge rabbit hole.
I thought I'd, let you.
That's just a little bit of what's going on, and that's a huge project rabbit hole. So, but thank you, Mark.
So did they recommend, Mark, where the mitigation? Because Eagle will recommend where they want it.
Yeah, I think it was 2.8 acres.
In what area, what zone they got?
Actually, hold on a second. Right now, we're to the point that they just want dollars and cents.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you what they want.
Yeah.
They had 10 different locations. We're at 0 right now.
Yeah, I got that from John Simani.
Money, yeah. That's what I thought.
Okay, any other board member comments? No. Item number 13 is public comments. Anybody in the public who'd like to come forward and make a public comment, now is your time to do so. See no one, everybody spoke out. All right, item number 14 is adjournment.
So moved.
You have a motion?
Second.
We got Harold seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, everyone, for coming, and have a good evening.